in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Texas. Long before the world knew his alias, Ross Ulbricht looked like the least likely man to challenge the full force of the United States government. He was soft-spoken, academically gifted, a physics graduate with libertarian ideals and a restless mind. But beneath that calm exterior, something radical was forming, an idea that would ignite a digital underworld and trigger one of the largest manhunts in cybercrime history. He believed markets should be free, completely free. Free from regulation, free from oversight, free from governments deciding what adults could or couldn't buy. It was a philosophy that lived in books and internet forums, until Ross decided to turn it into code. In 2011, under the alias Dread Pirate Roberts, he launched a website hidden inside the Tor network, a place invisible to normal browsers, a marketplace no one could stumble upon by accident. He called it Silk Road. At first glance, it looked like a primitive version of Amazon. Clean layout, vendor ratings, customer reviews, escrow system. But behind that familiar interface was something far darker. Drugs, forged documents, hacking services, counterfeit currency. Anything that could be shipped discreetly in the mail found a home there. What made Silk Road revolutionary wasn't just the products. It was the payment system. Bitcoin, still obscure and experimental at the time, became the lifeblood of the platform. Transactions were encrypted, pseudonymous, borderless. For the first time in history, a global black market could operate without cash, without face-to-face deals, without physical risk. Within months, Silk Road exploded. Vendors from Europe, North America, Australia, and Asia flocked to the platform. Buyers posted glowing reviews of discreet shipments and high-quality products. The site developed its own culture, forums discussing harm reduction, philosophy, even book recommendations. It wasn't chaos. It was structured, organized, efficient. And at the center of it all was Dread Pirate Roberts. He wasn't just an administrator. He was a ruler. He mediated disputes, enforced rules, and built an empire generating millions in commissions. Bitcoin prices began rising, partly fueled by Silk Road's demand. Law enforcement agencies started noticing something strange. A digital ghost market thriving in plain sight. The DEA, the FBI, Homeland Security investigations, they all began circling the same mystery. Who was running Silk Road? The first real break came almost by accident. An online post from the early days of Silk Road promotion mentioned a contact email address. That email traced back to a name, Ross Ulbricht. It wasn't definitive proof, but it was enough to put him on a watch list. Meanwhile, Silk Road kept growing. Undercover agents infiltrated the site. They posed as buyers. They posed as vendors. They observed. They documented. They followed the Bitcoin trails. But tracing cryptocurrency in 2011 was like navigating fog with a candle. Every step forward revealed 10 new shadows. Ross, as Dread Pirate Roberts, grew more confident. He spoke on forums about economic freedom and voluntary exchange. He debated philosophy. He wrote long messages about non-aggression principles. But as profits surged into the millions, something shifted. Power changes people. Behind encrypted chats, investigators later uncovered conversations that revealed a darker side. When a vendor threatened to expose the identities of users, DPR allegedly sought to silence him. He contacted someone he believed was a hitman and ordered a murder for hire. The twist: the hitman was an undercover federal agent. It happened again and again. Conversations about eliminating threats, protecting the empire at any cost. Whether those murders were ever carried out remains a matter of debate, but the intent was documented. Screenshots, logs, Bitcoin transfers for services rendered. The man who preached nonviolence had crossed a line into something far more dangerous. By 2013, Silk Road was generating over $1 billion in sales. Ross had amassed a personal fortune in Bitcoin worth tens of millions at the time, worth billions today. But the walls were closing in. The FBI wasn't just hunting a website. They were hunting a person. The breakthrough came through meticulous digital forensics. Agents traced server locations through subtle configuration leaks. They exploited a CAPTCHA flaw that briefly exposed the site's IP address. It led them to a data center in Iceland. From there, they cloned the server and quietly watched everything. They saw private messages, financial records, administrative logs. They needed one thing: to catch Ross logged in as Dread Pirate Roberts. On October 1, 2013, inside the science fiction section of a public library in San Francisco, two plainclothes agents staged a distraction. A loud argument erupted behind Ross. As he turned his head, another agent swooped in and grabbed his laptop before he could close it. It was unlocked. Logged in. Silk Road's admin panel open. Game over. Ross Ulbricht was arrested on the spot. The government moved swiftly. They shut down Silk Road, seized 144,000 bitcoins, announced the takedown as a historic victory against cybercrime. The media called him a mastermind, a kingpin, a digital Pablo Escobar. But the story didn't end there. As the trial unfolded, new bombshells dropped. Two federal agents involved in the investigation, DEA agent Carl Force and Secret Service agent Sean Bridges, were secretly stealing Bitcoin from the Silk Road investigation itself. They manipulated evidence. They extorted vendors. They laundered cryptocurrency for personal gain. The hunters had become criminals. Both agents were later convicted and sentenced to prison. The irony was staggering. While the government portrayed Silk Road as a lawless empire of corruption, corruption had infiltrated the investigation itself. It fueled defense arguments that Ross hadn't received a fair process. That evidence may have been compromised, but prosecutors had something powerful: chat logs, financial trails, server data, and the laptop seized in the library. Ross maintained that he had created Silk Road as an economic experiment but handed it off to others. That he was not the Dread Pirate Roberts who ordered murders. That he had been framed, manipulated, exaggerated into a villain to make an example. The jury didn't buy it. In 2015, Ross Ulbricht was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. No prior criminal record, no violent convictions, just code, cryptocurrency, and an empire hidden in the dark web. The sentence shocked many. Even critics of Silk Road questioned whether it was disproportionate. Supporters launched campaigns, petitions, appeals. They argued that Ross had become a symbol, a warning to anyone daring to challenge the system. Meanwhile, Silk Road's shutdown didn't end the dark web. It multiplied it. Dozens of new marketplaces emerged almost immediately, some bigger, some more sophisticated. Law enforcement continued the cat-and-mouse game, but the blueprint Ross created could never be erased. He proved it was possible. Today, Silk Road is gone. Its servers dismantled. Its bitcoins auctioned off by the U.S. Marshals. But its impact echoes across cybersecurity, cryptocurrency, and digital freedom debates. Was Ross Ulbricht a visionary crushed by the state, or a kingpin who built a billion-dollar criminal empire and tried to order killings to protect it? The truth lives somewhere in the tension between ideology and consequence. A quiet student became Dread Pirate Roberts. A libertarian experiment became a global narcotics hub. A hidden website triggered an international investigation spanning agencies and continents. And a single distracted moment in a library sealed the fate of a man who believed code could outmaneuver governments. In the end, the system he challenged proved relentless. But the digital revolution he helped ignite continues to reshape the world. Because once you build an empire in the shadows, even if it falls, the darkness never forgets how it was done.